This is the one. Maybe not the one for you. Scuf/Corsair should have called this the Envision 1, as in the first iteration, the first version of a new model. On October 12th of 2023, when Corsair, the parent company of Scuf, dropped the Envision, this controller was missing some features that had become standards, expected features, almost staples in the premium or pro controller market. Things like Hall effect or TMR thumbstick modules that are far less likely to get stick drift for you than those typical potentiometer joints we've been rolling around with. Subpar battery life, some pretty wonky connectivity with the IQ software, which that's probably because, much like Razer Synapse software, that handles all peripherals for that company. Keyboards, mice, headsets, controllers, so there might be a little bit of jankage in there. There is some jankage in there, but this has been a controller that I have frequently found myself grabbing, and since I haven't done a long-term follow-up owner's review of this controller, now is the time, considering it is one of my favorites. Without further ado, you can sit down, there's a lot of seats in the front row, and we'll get down to this long-term ownership review of the Envision Pro from Scuf. So I don't bounce around on nilly-willy and backtrack, forward track, and get sidetracked, missing things or repeating things. I do have the typical sections for a initial review, a first-time review. We can go down the line, part by part, component by component, so we can cover how all these aspects of the controller have treated me. So cosmetics or looks are completely subjective. Personally, think this controller looks fantastic. It does come in a black colorway, which I think doesn't look nearly as handsome as the white. Again, this is personal preference, but I do think the white has more of a contrasty color pop with the gray. And if you need a grade, I'm going to give the cosmetics a 9 out of 10. As for comfort, this is an interesting topic because during my initial review, I said that this was a unique shaped controller, and it certainly is. The bluffer bottom line up front when it comes to comfort is this. It is going to take some getting used to. When you first pick up this controller, you might actually think it's uncomfortable, but give it some stick time, maybe a few days, maybe a few weeks. The relatively hard, dense rubber is not the most soft, supple, but it will last for you in the long run. Mine have gotten a little bit browned, dirtied from my skin, grit, and oil, but they have not broken apart at all, which in my opinion is pretty impressive because old school Scuf rubber or silicone compound before they were acquired from Corsair used to break apart on people's thumbsticks after no time. This is a very comfortable controller once you get used to it, and the last sentiment is if you are a large-handed individual, this would make a good controller for you, as there is a lot of spacing millimeter-wise between the two palm grips, and the only thing I think you're going to have an issue with is perhaps your pinky fingers not having enough substance to wrap around, but overall a very comfortable controller. As for build quality, I have had this puppy since launch and I have had no issues. Nothing has broke, nothing has degraded, no buttons have gotten stuck in, and there is no stick drift. As for a warranty, I did mention when this occurred because it was big news at the time, and I'll reiterate it now because it's still good news. For the longest time, Scuf sported a 6-month warranty on these two $300 premium and pro controllers. When they were acquired from Corsair and they started whipping the quality control into shape, they also revised the warranty policy and increased it to 1 year of periodic coverage here in North America, which is pretty standardized. Not the best, but it is better than 6 months, I tell you. As for the D-pad, shape-wise, it is a hybrid wheel, which you would get on a standard Xbox Series controller. It is an 8-way micro switch, mechanical, clicky bit, but it also has 8 distinct gates, a diagonal input. They do have their own distinct gates, which is notable in things like fighting games. Also, I'm not a huge fighting connoisseur or buff. It's probably the genre of games that I play the least. Nothing against them, I just don't usually play a lot of fighting games, but the D-pad works very well for them whenever I did play fighting games. So there's that. As for the face or action buttons, they are also mechanical and I've had no issues with them getting stuck in. Relatively quiet for being clicky mechanical joints, and they do have a nice amount of resistance, a nice snapback or rebound. All in all, very satisfying face buttons to use. Since I do have them mapped or bound to the rear buttons, they don't really get a whole heck of a lot of use other than when I'm navigating menus, but they do feel phenomenal. Nice. As for the accessory button suite, this is where I'm going to loop in the G keys, which give you full control of a Windows PC. Things like controlling OBS to switch scenes and start recordings, turning your room lights on and off, switching and pausing songs in Spotify, stuff like that. The G keys are phenomenal. The only gripe or complaint I have is that you do need the IQ software running in the background, and a lot of times the G keys would just stop working for me and default back to their onboard profile, which is not mappable or bindable to Windows keys. You do that with the IQ software running in the background, and a couple of times, no, more than a couple, more than a few, quite a few times I would say, the IQ software got janked up and I'd have to right click, close it out in my taskbar, relaunch it, and it would be a-okay. The G keys are physically pretty small, still hittable. There's also individual addressable RGBs. You can set that up. The 5G keys are phenomenal. I also really enjoy these Sax keys, aka S1 and S2, which are in a good place, and I bind to left and right on the D-pad. I was worried I would be hitting these constantly, but I never get any false actuations, and they are there for me when I need them. I have heard one complaint in the comment section of somebody breaking these and complaining that they're thin plastic. Can't think of a way the Sax buttons could break in normal gameplay, but maybe a drop if it catches one of those buttons. The Sax buttons are also removable, and there is a flush blockout plate if you do not want to run these, but again, they have enough resistance to where you shouldn't get any false actuations unless you grip your controller rather heavy-handed, in which case, loosen up, it's just a video game. As for the thumbsticks or analog sticks, they are typical potentiometer joints that can get stick drift for you at any potential moment. Having said that, I have zero hint that stick drift is gonna happen on this controller. I conservatively, that's a word that I've accomplished. On the low side, on the very, very conservative end, this controller has at least 200 hours of gameplay on it. That's looking at the runtime of all the games that I've played with this controller and then adding them up. No stick drift on her. Not shown in GPT, not in gameplay, and I do bump down my dead zones. Having said that, on the next version or iteration, I would love to see Hall Effect or TMR thumbstick modules. The included thumbstick cap options are not great, hence you're going to see these flip over universal play vitals, which I think look and feel phenomenal. Moving on to the gyro and touchpad. No and no sir, there is neither. Some individuals use gyro to aim on PC, and even more individuals will be using gyro on PC as PlayStation exclusives are getting ported over, and sometimes they have little mini games where you gotta shake the controller or something. It'd be cool if this had gyro, 6-axis motion sensing, also a touchpad. It looks like it has one. That's just the soft touch rubberized material. Furthermore than that, just PC specific programs like Rewaz and DS4 let you set up custom functions to the touchpad where you can swipe through scenes in OBS, start songs, stuff like that. As for the bumpers, it is more of a high-pitched clickety-clackety sound that they produce, as they are also mechanical, but wearing a headset or blaring my speakers, I've never been bothered by that. And ergonomically, they do feel phenomenal. Your finger is cupped in this sweet little decadent ergonomic dish. I don't really know how else to explain that. The bumpers feel super good. And then rolling right on down to the triggers, they do have a really funky looking trigger lock or stop mechanism, with the lever to turn it on and off being on the back of the trigger itself, which is pretty much impossible to turn on and off in gameplay without turning the controller around. So if you're driving and you like the full squeeze of the gas and brake, but then you get in a shootout and you want your triggers locked off, you're gonna have to pause the game, turn them on, as opposed to other controllers where you can just doot, doot, turn them on like that. They also have this really weird shape. As for the rear, they're not paddles, which Scuf has typically used in the past. These are buttons that are flush with the rear shell. So the rear buttons are a little bit deceptive because P2 and 3, which are the inner buttons, do have a little cutout, which looks like you could pry them out and pop them off, but it doesn't feel like they really ought to be doing that. Don't try and remove your buttons. Luckily, they are flush enough to where I never accidentally hit these puppies. So if I'm playing a game where I'm not using them, I'm not accidentally squeezing them. All good here, brother. There is multiple profiles that you can swap through. I say multiple because I can't think of the number right now, but it's popping up on screen right here. You can swap through multiple profiles, which are linked to a color on the LED status light. You can also rebind these on the fly, which is fantastic, but for deep dive customization, you're going to want to use the IQ software, which is what we're talking about now. Just like Razer Synapse, actually most of the PC peripheral companies are doing this now, like SteelSeries and Logitech. It's one umbrella software program that you have to keep running in the background of your PC, and that'll tell your mouse, headset, keyboard, controller what to do, as long as you're in the same ecosystem and you bought all within the same brand. IQ, the biggest problem is sometimes it just stops working and you need to close it out in the tray and relaunch it. Other than that, it's fine. It's a software program. 6 out of 10. As for battery life, the regular Envision does not have a battery and you will have to go tethered, wired with a USB-C cable, but we're talking about the Envision Pro because we're very professional over here. That has an advertised 19 hours of battery life. IRL, you're going to get 16 to 17. One battery saving tip I can give you is to turn off the RGB lighting on the G keys. Input lag, delay, overclocking, that hasn't changed at all since the initial review. So I'm going to link that down there so you can watch that again, kind of like a rerun situation. As for converter or adapter support, Corsair but Scuf has really locked down the support for this controller to only be PC. Now, there is one device that I have discovered called the Titan 2, which does offer limited functionality with the Envision. When I say limited, she's extremely limited, and having discovered this adapter or converter recently, I'm going to do a quick little mini review. How would this slot into the popular converters or adapters, which I just compared on the channel recently? This might peek its head up in the honorable mentions category just because of its ability to force functionality with the Envision. There are so many cons or setbacks to using this particular little box that it does not even make it worthwhile. I could only get it working on the Switch, and it required a ton of setup as you do have to remap the individual buttons, and you're lacking a ton of functionality. Furthermore, hypothetically, if you could get it working on Xbox or PlayStation, you would be missing a ton of core functionality such as the G keys, the Sax buttons, because those were not recognizable as remappable buttons. Build quality is abysmal. You've got 2 micro USB ports. I'll repeat that again. Micro USB ports on the back, 2 USB 2 God know whatever on the front. The interface to navigate is a little LED screen. And unlike all the converters or adapters in that recent video, which will be linked in the description below, which all offer a unique shtick or feature, the Pi 5 Mate can have multiple controllers / devices, headsets included, connected at once. Brook Accessories adapters are super simple to use, with the biggest complication being a potential update on the PC you might have to do. And the Cronus Zen, that's a great tool if you want to be a nefarious turd wagon pissing everybody off and have no self-esteem. The Titan 2, which I'm still holding for some reason, honorable mention maybe, but nothing that I would pair up with the Scuf Envision. I don't even feel like they should be introduced to each other. The Envision, you're a sweetheart. The Titan 2. So overall, I am a big fan of this controller, but I'm going to rattle off a couple of key features that should be added with the next version or iteration. Corsair, you can write me a check for these ideas, or I'm just going to give them out for free. The thumbsticks. Obviously, the next version should be Hall Effect or TMR. Don't go with a swappable potentiometer version because the customer still needs to invest in a replacement part. Gyro and touchpad support, meaning not only the hardware, it's on the controller itself, but also useful control with sliders and easy to understand tweakage in the IQ software for the gyro and touchpad. So that would be super ideal on the next Envision. I really don't have a whole heck of... Oh, battery life should be a little bit longer. We're looking at about 17 hours of IRL gameplay. More, please. That's actually not a huge deal considering this is a PC exclusive controller and you're probably sitting right in front of a tower that you can just plug in. If you are adapting this for console use, I feel like I'm forgetting something, so drop in the comments section below what that is, and like and subscribe. That would be greatly appreciated, and I will see you tomorrow.